Thank you very much.
Looking at the top 10 comic books from 2024 from this past year. I started my comic book channel here about 8 months ago, so it was really fun going back and looking at all the comic books that came out this year. The way I figured out this list was just whatever kind of comics came to mind, right off the top of my head. That's what I decided to put on this list. I kind of narrowed it down. It was not easy trying to figure out this list, I can tell you that, but I finally narrowed it down to 10, so we'll start off here with number 10. I got The Edge of Spider-Verse, number 1, Weapon 8. Now, this was kind of an interesting comic book, and it's at number 10 because it's really just this first story that I really liked. There's 3 stories in this book with different spider-themed characters. So, I'm not a big fan of all the derivative characters that Marvel does. I would much prefer if they would just create new characters instead of creating 100 different Spider-Men, for instance, or multiple Captain Americas. But with that being said, I really like this character. This was an interesting character, to say the least. So we're on Earth 72 in this comic book, and so it's like an Elseworlds type story here. It's written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing, and we got Travel Foreman doing the artwork here. But we've got this Peter Parker Spider-Man who's in the Weapon X program here, and he's Weapon 8. And he's being sent after some of the other weapons here. He's going after Weapon 10 or Weapon X here, Logan. And we see that he actually gets the best of Logan here, using napalm to burn him up. And goes after Captain America here. This is just a really cool story. A totally interesting character. This book came out of left field for me. I have not read any of the Edge of Spider-Verse books or the Venomverse books or anything like that, but this just looked like a cool character, and turns out this is his first appearance, and this is kind of a key. I didn't even really realize it at the time when this came out, so it came out earlier in the year, and the value of this book's actually gone up since it went out, so I think it is kind of a bit of a sleeper hit, so to speak. And so we've got this character. He goes up against Captain America, who is Weapon 1 here in this storyline. And this Weapon 8 character, he's trying to figure out who exactly he is. He doesn't have a name other than Weapon 8. But then we get one of the other security guards here who's watching this fight from the Department H facility. I almost wonder if this is Eddie Brock. And we get a little flashback here to him working with Parker before. And he lets this Weapon 8 know that his name was Peter. And he says, "I like that." So, pretty weird comic, and just a weird character. But I really like this issue. It was a good story. The rest of this book, it's got a couple other stories with this Spider Bite character. Not much else to this story. This was a character who was in Across the Spider-Verse. So, and then we get a Spider-Man 2099 story at the end, which leads into the Spider Society and Web of Spider-Man comics that came out after this. So that kind of a cool ending, but mainly just for this first story I really liked, and that's why it's at number 10, just because mainly it's just that one story. If it was this a full comic book, it might have been higher on the list. So I got, for number 9, we got X-Men Era of Apocalypse number 2. Now, I could have picked issues 1 or 2 for this, because they're both really good, but this one specifically, this issue was awesome. We get Genocide making a return here. This the son of Apocalypse. He used to be known as Holocaust back in the Age of Apocalypse comics. They've changed his name to Genocide, though. But this is like an all-action comic book I did reviews of this whole series. I thought the whole series was really good. But what stuck out to me about this issue was that the artist Nitho Diaz, the artist on the first and second issue here, the art really stood out to me. He's become one of my favorite artists at Marvel right now. He's the secondary artist on the current X-Men book, with Ryan Stegman doing the art as well. And I just really liked it. And this is an all-action issue, like I said. Kind of like a Survivor type of plot going on here, with just a totally kind of random group of obscure X-Men being thrown together to see who's going to be the heir of Apocalypse. So this was a good miniseries. It kind of bridged the gap between the Krakoan era and the fall of, what's it called, the From the Ashes era of X-Men. So this was the bridge between the two. So some cool splash pages here, some awesome art here by Nitho Diaz. I really like this whole series, but I picked out this specific issue because it's just an all-action issue, and I really liked it. So number 8, I got Savage Dragon number 267 here. This was a $9.99 book. This came out at the very beginning of the year. Eric Larson doing Savage Dragon. It's a wedding issue. I'm a sucker for wedding issues in comic books for sure. This is Frank Darling and Angel Murphy finally getting married. We've got a cast of characters around here. Really cool looking cover. We get the whole history of Angel and Frank retold here. Their entire history. It's pretty cool. A nice bit of storytelling catching us up. Then we get to the wedding here, and Frank doesn't seem to be himself. And there's a great reveal here on the last page where we find out that Frank is actually switched bodies with the arch nemesis of Savage Dragon, Mr. Glum. They've even switched dimensions here. So Mr. Glum is in the body of Frank, and Angel doesn't know who she just married. So great work here by Larson as usual, and we get some backup stories with North Force, which is like the Canadian superhero team here. I was talking about earlier how I, would prefer new superheroes to be created as opposed to all these like derivative variants like we get at Marvel and DC. And that's what we get in Savage Dragon. We get lots of new characters. There's always new superheroes showing up. And this specific issue, it's almost like an annual. And it's got all these extra backup stories in here. Reprints from the original Vanguard first appearance here. So really nice stuff. It's even got that old paper look to it. So this was a really awesome issue. Get some Megaton comics here. All reprinted in the back. I think it's probably the first time these have been reprinted like this. So we got 7 here. Moon Knight number 0. Fist of Khonshu. This was a book that kind of came out of nowhere. It hadn't been announced much ahead of its release. It was basically the return of Moon Knight after he had been killed. It was in the middle of the Blood Hunt storyline. But the thing I really loved about this issue was that it's all giant splash pages. Every page is a splash page. Alessandro Cappuccio doing the artwork here. Jed MacKay writing. So we get caught up on all the characters from the Midnight Mission and then the return of Moon Knight himself with his new costume, his new look. Got some of the villains here. But again, what I loved about this, why this is on the list here at number 7 is because it's just all splash pages. So, and we get a backup story here as well, tying this into the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. So yeah, Moon Knight number 0, definitely recommend that one. I got number 6 here. Spawn kills every Spawn. Number 1. Now, I pretty much could have picked any issue from this series. Sketchcraft is on the artwork here. John Layman did the writing. But I just picked the first issue because it's got some of the best splash pages, I think. Got a great opening page there. It's got this awesome double splash of a convention. We get a Savage Dragon little cameo here. I've done reviews of this whole series. Thought it was a lot of fun. It's high on the list just because I like the whole series. I think the work is really solid. The book is really fun. And it's just got that kind of great 90s throwback feel to it, really. Kind of feels like Scud the Disposable Assassin. Something like that. Making fun of Spawn comics, kind of a love letter to comics. So Spawn kills every Spawn, number 6. Then number 5, we got The Ultimates, issue number 4. I thought the Ultimates series has been pretty good. This is written by Dennis Camp. We got Phil Noto on the artwork. Now, he's not the main artist on this book, and I'm not really a big fan of his artwork usually. But conceptually, this issue is just really awesome. You can read it, up to down like that, or you can read it left to right, as each panel is telling a story from a different perspective, from a different point in time. So you can read down the page or across, and there's just multiple ways to look at this book. We get the story of Doom here in this Ultimate Universe, who's actually Reed Richards. And the story of the Fantastic Four, who got killed off in the original space flight here. So Reed's the only one who has survived, and he's been tortured by the Maker, who's an evil version of himself. So this was an awesome comic book. Love the origin of this Doom. I'm intrigued to see where this all leads. We haven't seen the Fantastic Four show up yet in this Ultimates book, but Reed is continuing to work to try and get the return of the Fantastic Four. And the fact that it was issue 4 too, like I said, just conceptually, this whole comic was really solid. So number 4, I've got Local Man, the Bad Girls issue. So this is by Tim Seeley and Tony Fleecs, and this whole series has been good. I mean, I really couldn't pick a specific issue from Local Man, so I picked this one because it was kind of the special. It was out of order of the main series, and it told a really cool story here. This villain called the Sixth, she created this sex bomb that got rid of all of the males. So all the females from Image have to team up here. And so we get a whole bunch of cameos here, including from like She-Dragon, Witchblade, The Pro, Velocity. So some really awesome stuff here. Eventually they get all their men back and reverse the sex bomb. And we get a story told from it's just a really interesting way they've told this story. We've got Neon here. She's talking to this character Inga. And Inga's kind of obsessed with the whole superheroes thing. And she's even got this audio tape of an adventure that Neon went on. So then we get the second part of this story gets told from the audio tape's perspective. And it's just really well done storytelling. This whole series has been awesome. Kind of flipping superheroes on its head. So, highly recommend Local Man. The whole series finished up recently, so you can pretty much pick up all the issues if you can find them. It's a completed series, so. This one came out, like I said, out of order. It's not really a number or anything. It's just the Bad Girls issue. Kind of a take off the 90s Bad Girls specials, which I think is pretty clever, but it's really like not that at all. It tells a pretty awesome story here, just involving these two female characters. So And there's these pinups in the back done in like a 70s pinup style where we've got like models playing the parts of some of the characters in the book here. Like obviously this is Margot Robbie and Taylor Swift. But this is done by the artist Selena J here. And then we get some character profiles as well of all the bad girls. So this was an awesome issue. Really stuck out to me. Thought it was a lot of fun. Then number 3 is actually a 3-way tie. So this is my list, so I can do whatever I want. And this one's going to be a 3-way tie between the DC All-In Special, Absolute Batman, and Absolute Wonder Woman. I got the Absolute Wonder Woman Noir edition here is the one that I ended up picking up. I did a review of this comic, but it was pretty solid comic book. Gotta say, the artwork in here is pretty awesome. I like the way they've rebooted Wonder Woman and Batman here. I'll give an honorable mention to Superman, but I thought that these two were just the better of the 3 for sure. And I can't really figure out which one's better. I like them both. I really like this middle portion of the Wonder Woman comic that told the story of Diana growing up. I thought this was really conceptually well done. This was a good book, and Absolute Batman was one of the biggest hits of the year, obviously. I thought it was a subversive way of doing Batman. We didn't know who was showing up here. I liked the beginning of this. You almost think this might be Bruce, but then we find out it's Alfred. Then you think that this guy might be Bruce. We find out it's just some other guy. Here comes Bruce. This is the real Bruce. So get some great artwork here by Nick Dragotta. Scott Snyder's doing the writing, so a nice little pocket universe Batman here. This stuff's kind of some instant classic work, if you ask me. And the DC All-In Special too. This was conceptually a great book. I love how it's told from 2 different perspectives, from the All-In universe, the main DC universe, and then the pages like burn up. We get Darkseid showing up, and then there's a giant double splash page here connecting these 2 stories right here. You can kind of flip it either way. We've got the second story here told from Darkseid's perspective as he's creating his absolute universe, I guess you might say. Kind of similar in concept to the Ultimate Universe at Marvel for sure. Even to the storyline aspect of like Darkseid's coming back for this universe, just like how the Maker's coming back. But I mean, this is a key issue. This is the actual first appearance of Absolute Wonder Woman and Absolute Batman and Absolute Superman. So, and just great work by all the people who were involved in this. So I had to shout out all 3 of these issues. A big tie at number 3. Number 2, I got Violator. Number 1. This kind of came out of nowhere. Mark Andreyko is on the artwork. Or he's on the script, I should say. And Petra Kowalski's on the artwork. And the artwork is just incredible in this. It's a Violator comic. It had no right to look this pretty. So we get the whole origin of Violator starting way back in hell here. Again, just incredible looking artwork all throughout this. Some of these splash pages here at the end are really great. Some awesome colors. And we get some pages with just the inks, the pencils and inks. This is just one of my favorite comic books to look at all year. So that's why it's so high on the list. And it's a pretty good story too. It's really well written. It's got some funny moments. and really enjoyed this one. So number 2 is Violator number 1 by Image Comics. And number 1, we've got Ultimate Spider-Man number 1. This was Jonathan Hickman doing the writing and Marco Cicchetto doing the artwork here. This comic felt like coming home to a warm cooked meal. I mean, it really did. We've got Peter Parker here. He's married to Mary Jane. They've got kids. I mean, it's pretty much anything you could ask for in a Spider-Man comic. We got Uncle Ben, who's alive in this universe, and Aunt May, who's dead, which is one of the major differences here. And he's working with J. Jonah Jameson. So, I mean, this comic doesn't have a lot of action in it. Doesn't have a lot of Spider-Man in it. It's just a lot of setup, but it's some great setup, and it's set up one of the best comics of the year, I feel like, in Ultimate Spider-Man. It's been one of my favorite ongoing series for sure. Probably one of the best things Marvel's done. And that's why it's at number 1. And it's got some really solid artwork here as well, as you can see. So, I mean, even if it's just Peter and Mary Jane talking, just some really great faces and some good storytelling panel to panel here. So we finally get Spider-Man at the very end of the book here as Iron Lad visits Peter and kind of clues him into everything that's going on here. We get the Go Get 'Em Tiger from MJ, gets the spider bite, and we get our final reveal of Ultimate Spider-Man on the last page. So this was a great setup. I really enjoyed this. This was my favorite comic book of the year. Let me know what you guys think. Am I out to lunch? You got your own top 10? Let me know in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I post daily comic book reviews, so please subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.